brutality, especially toward women, then you will have you may have to like push through the first the first chapter, not the second, but not the first chapter, but the prologue, and then the first chapter for all this brutality. I think it's easier to digest. So that's the warning about it. But it's good. There are stories in Paradigm Void that I'm actually going to put warnings on before that. There is a scene in Paradigm Void in a story called Conviction, and one of the scenes deals with a particularly brutal rape. So, it's that type of thing that I'll put a warning on. And then there's stories in Paradigm Void that I would sit down and read to one of my grandchildren, one of my younger grandchildren. So the stories do run the gambit. And as far as stories in Paradigm Void, there's a story called Moanesis, the Oak Tree. This is the Reading and Writing in the Dark podcast. There's also a Reading and Writing in the Dark newsletter. In the newsletter, I'll pretty much keep you up on what I'm working on, what I'm doing, how it's coming along, and so on. In addition to things that I have read and my takes on them and different authors that I've either been reading or just newly discovering, and that type of thing. But Reading and Writing in the Dark is my newsletter. It's a monthly newsletter, and you can get that at ayapoyapa.com. If you click the button that says get your free copy of Moanesis, the Oak Tree, that will take you to where you can sign up for the newsletter. Signing up for the newsletter puts you on the mailing list for the Reading and Writing in the Dark newsletter, and it also gives you a free download of the complete story Moanesis, the Oak Tree, that is taken from the book Paradigm Void. A lot of people have read Moanesis, a lot, and no one has read it and not liked it. And it's not one of these cases where, they're just telling me something to make me feel good. No one has read it and not liked it. And all of them say that it touched them on some level. And every person who's read it, with one exception, and that one exception being my lovely wife, Angela, with that one exception, everyone who has read Moanesis said that it made them cry. And what I find interesting is that everyone who said that the story made them cry tell me that they cried about something different in the story, which I found kind of interesting. There's a part of the story that I became emotional about as I was writing it. And I was thinking that everyone would that's the part that they said that they cried on. I always assumed that whenever they start talking about, that made me cry. And then I come to find out that the majority of them did not cry about that part that was so intense for me. It was other things that made them cry, but not the part that I actually wrote and thought that would be the most heart-wrenching part. One reader in particular, my mother-in-law, she read it and she made the comment that because of that story, I've become her favorite writer. And she also made the comment that after she read it, she cried the rest of the day after reading it. The story is, I'm not going to lie and say the story is not supposed to make you cry or whatever. It's because it's intense. And you would think that it would be like this benign thing, because the premise of it is just this oak tree telling a story, but it's all that happens in the story. And I do think it's one of my finest works thus far, and that's one of the reasons that I singled that out as a thank you gift for signing up for the newsletter and joining the mailing list. So when you go on the site, it's a pretty prominent button that says click here to get your free copy of Moanissa's The Oak Tree. And of course, that's at www.ayapoyapa.com. And if you're listening to this podcast, you probably already got there from got to this podcast from the sign up page. So I want to thank everyone who has already signed up for the newsletter. It makes me smile every time I see a new subscriber to the newsletter, and I can't wait to give you the first issue and then just continue monthly giving you these updates. When it comes to all the stories I write, again, this is about taking control of our narrative. There's a particular story I wrote. It's a mystery story, and Angela and my writers group have read the first. They read the prologue to it, because I tend to give the prologue to people to read if they want to get started or want to get a preview of what I'm working on. And she read it, and it was pretty much a general consensus that the portrayal of Black love in that prologue between the husband and the wife, and just their dedication and love for each other was. I'm trying to remember how she said it. I'll just have to paraphrase her, but she was just talking about how much she was drawn into that story. I've heard her speaking on the phone to other people, suggesting that they read this prologue because the Black love that's in the prologue not only is not only heartwarming or but that it rings true and it hits a certain kind of a note, as she would say. And that just made me very happy to hear that, in addition to the fact that it's starting out as a pretty darn good mystery story. So I'm not going to just limit myself to writing theoretical ebon fiction. I'm also going to write mysteries, and I'm just going to write across different genres. And I really, really am looking forward to all the work that I'm about to do. I'm looking forward to the work that I'm doing. I happily have just finished the illustrations for a children's book that is not mine. This is a T.J. Riley's book. It's called The Money Tree. And it's a children's book. And I just so enjoyed working with her. She was so easy to work with. Anjali Shabazz is easy to work with too. I do cover designs for her, and I love working with her because she is so easy to work with. TJ Riley is so easy to work with, and I do my very best work all the time. I always give 110%, which as people say, I know you can't give 110%. You know what I mean. And I just love it. And as you look around on the site, you look at my different books. I design all my own covers. There's one for there's one for Westory AR, and that is my wife's least favorite cover design that I've done, which is fine. But then there is the Dreams of a Restless God, or Dreams of a Restless God, and that, I think she says her favorite cover. I know that I really like that cover. And the Interceders I really like as a cover. And so there's that. Any covers that you see on my site, I design all of them because I'm a graphic designer and cartoonist. So anyway, when it comes to my writing, it's all about our people. It's all about controlling our narrative and presenting our people to our people a certain way. Not like we're flawless, not like we're superhuman or anything, but as the good, brilliant, resourceful, inventive, innovative people that we are. And as a specific goal, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to present in my drawing, in my writing, in my music. That is what I want to present. So I know I said I was just going to talk about Melanin and went off into talking about my other projects, but I guess that's how it will go sometimes, because I work on a lot of things at once. I'm writing 3 books at once right now. At any given time, I'm working on 3 or 4 projects at one time, and honestly, some people say, that would confuse them or it would be hard to juggle that. And I get it. I understand it. But that's just how my workflow goes. Because what happens is when I'm working on several different projects at once, it prevents me from getting bored. I can't remember the last time I could ever consider myself having been bored, or what I would call bored, because I always have something to do, whether it's writing or drawing or writing music or playing music or what. I always have something to do, so I don't get bored. And when I'm working on and it also, for me, helps to prevent writer's block, because if I do get quote unquote writer's block in a certain story that I'm working on, say that in the Inner Cedars, I get writer's block, then in a certain part, then I will jump over to like the second Paradigm Void and start working on a short story in there. If I get writer's block there, then I'll go to Weastery AR or The Dreams of a Restless God and start working on that. So I've just, or just anything. So I don't get writer's block often in that same way. And it just works for me. For some, that wouldn't work for them. But that's my process. That's about it. I enjoy talking about my work. I enjoy talking about moving our people forward, seeing the inspiration of Q Butter in his school. And, that is that type of thing that moves me forward. And so with that, I'll just say that this is the Reading and Writing in the Dark podcast. This is Ayapo Yapa, your host, and I want to thank you for taking some time out of your day to listen to what I had to say and talk about as far as my work is concerned. And I guess I'll just see you next time. And don't forget, if you want to pre-order Melanin, a novel, for $3.99, you can either go straight to www.ayapoyapa.com and click either the Barnes & Noble or the Amazon buttons, and they'll take you there. Or you can go directly to Barnes & Noble or Amazon.com and get it from there. But I would suggest that you come to the site, because there's a lot happening on the site. And if you come to the site, you won't be sorry. And the final thing I'll say about the website is that there are 2 Easter eggs in that site. I keep emphasizing this every time I talk to anybody about it. There are a couple Easter eggs hidden in that site. And if you go to them, you will be pleasantly surprised. I guarantee it. So that's it. And just thanks again for listening. And I will talk to you soon. Keep on reading. And for you authors, keep on writing. Peace.